It's my joy from the bottom of our heart, as Rwandese, and my heart personally, to have you come and have your conference, annual conference in Rwanda. There must be a reason why you thought about Rwanda. You've gone in many other countries of the world. You've been into Istanbul. You've been in New York and many other places. I don't know the basis of your choice, and I didn't want to ask you about that, but I want to thank you anyway for having chosen to come to Rwanda. And I thank the government of Rwanda for having let us have this conference in the country, and also be able to partner with you as a government commission and have this time, and our staff and everybody to be able to cooperate, because this is a cost to the government and a sacrifice to the government to be able to have these young men and women. At least I have the grace to say that, because they are all younger than I, to be able to have all this a few days with you. So we really, I'm very grateful to the government of Rwanda to let us have this moment. The greatest interest for me is the purpose for which you exist. As a historian, as somebody who reflects on your name and on your purpose of existence, by the nature of history I have lived, I resonate, my mind resonates very seriously on your name and on your purpose of existence. So the dignity for all human beings and the study of humiliation in our world today is a topic of interest for us in Rwanda. So we take this opportunity, Dr. Evelyn Emmanuel for Rwandan chapter. Thank God, at least we know there is a chapter in Rwanda. We didn't know you have a chapter in Rwanda, but now we know you are in Rwanda. So you are most welcome to Rwanda. And those of you who are here the first time, I told you, nobody comes to Rwanda once. Start saving money and come again. I'm serious. At least it is my experience. People have come and come again. And at least most of my friends have. The concept of human dignity and the study of human humiliation, its concept and reality is an issue for every human society to take very seriously. Unfortunately, we don't. It's so important and complex. When you dehumanize, when you humiliate human beings, you build up opportunities to exploit them. People who are dehumanized, people who are frustrated, stressed, poor, subjected to no value, are easily exploited by those who do that into them. Therefore, we should cherish this idea of human dignity. You know, God bestowed upon us the dignity which translates in His image, and this was done to all human beings of all colors and in the whole world. But human beings have degraded others and made them less, and by so doing, they exploit each other. And therefore some claim have more rights, or their rights are more rights than the rights of others. And this study and your organization is meant to expose that human evil and weakness, because they degrade the most cherished God-given quality on human beings. We have therefore experienced horrors caused by the fact that people tend to deprive others of their dignity or convince them, even write distorted history on others, and let the world know people are what they are not by their claim and their writings. I will give you an example. I went to Chicago in the Museum of Art a number of times, and the last time we visited that museum with my wife. We went into the African section, and on the map of Africa there was Rwanda, and on that map it's written Rwanda has 3 tribes. And these tribes speak 3 languages. The language of Hutu, the language of Tutsi, and the language of Twa. I almost melted in front of that war. The distorted information, and that museum is visited by thousands and hundreds of people every single day. Extremely busy museum, and they are getting us distorted that we are 3 tribes and we speak 3 languages, and we are made to look something different from what God made us. Here we are, we speak 1 language, we have 1 culture, we had the same beliefs before Christianity came, and Islam, and whatever it is that we are in today. Are we what the world make us and speak of us, or are we who we are? So if human dignity and the study of humiliation on human beings as an organization. So this name, but actually this name, Evelyn, you need to consider it. It sounds more of the function than the name of an organization. For me, your name is not only a name, it's a function. You are engaged in the study. You are in the production of the knowledge of the suffering of the human nature. So now that you are in Rwanda, you are most welcome. But in order to understand who we are, to comprehend who we are, to comprehend the struggles Rwanda is engaging to recover from human humiliation, you need to know who we are. You need to know what we are struggling with, and I think we are blessed that you have a member of our society, an informed man, must have told you, but I will still be allowed to say what we are recovering from. With the colonization of the world from 1914 through maybe 1962, when Rwanda got whether the independence or something similar to independence, we have been under distortions, experience of distortions, and dehumanization and humiliation. I will just cite a few in the history. After the colonial power took us over, after the defeat of the Germans, you know, when the Germans lost the colonies in Africa, we were first a member of your country. We were members as colonies, not members as members of Germany anyway. were, were in the membership, we were in the group of colonies of Germany. But when Germany lost us, Belgium took us out. But I want you to know who we were before that. Rwanda was one of the kingdoms which was mighty in army, to the extent that the Arabs and some Portuguese who devastated the Congo by capturing slaves and selling the Congolese from the kingdom of the Bakongo, actually. You need to study these things. You really need to study our history. I get pain that our young men, educated young men and women, even some of the educated leaders, even in the churches, to make the matter worse, they don't know the history of this continent. The kingdom of the Bakongo was devastated by Portuguese selling people into slavery, to the extent that they even sold the members of the royal family into slavery. And the church in Portugal was in that business. I'm ashamed to say this as a bishop. So Rwanda was mighty. At that time, nobody came. We didn't lose Rwandese into slavery because of the nature of the army we had. But when the colonials took over, the one thing they destroyed, I want you to measure this humiliation. They actually took to prison, exiled, frustrated, humiliated all the Rwandan army, and they replaced them with the Congolese infantry, who started to rape and started to humiliate our women. And today they say Africans are immoral because they were taught the imported immorality on us. That's humiliation. And it's not humiliation, it's mental humiliation, it's a social humiliation, and it's a total degradation of humanity. Secondly, they deported our king. So there is no might, no army. We remain with the memories of the mightiness of the nation. The army, the military destroyed. And secondly, now the king, who was the head, was deported at the edge of the kingdom. And from there, they actually took him to Lubumbashi in the southern, the former Elizabethville. That's where he died. That's the stages of humiliation. The third was the tear. The tear of our social fabric. Sarah, can I borrow a piece of paper? Our social setup, the human society, our nature, our relationships, our way of doing things, the way we comprehend ourselves, our values and our culture can be torn as I tear this paper. Our social fabric and the values was torn. So we remained as pieces of paper which are blown by the winds at the hands of the colonials. Then they established the politics of divisions. What they called in 1959, I remember. By the way, some of us are living history. In 1959, I saw with my own eyes, I read with my own eyes. The paper which had been written from Kabwai and had the stamp signature of King Kigali, requesting the populace to burn the houses of the Tutsis and punish the Tutsis in the name of the king, and the king didn't know. And they spread them. The helicopters of the Belgian soldiers were distributing those papers with matches all over the country, and I picked one. I remember picking one. I lost it sometimes the things run away. I wish I would have this meeting. I would have brought it to you. I read it. And the people were taking it, burning houses in the name of the king, and the king didn't know that was happening in his name. So the politics of division, the distortion of who we are and the history. I remember in the University of Pittsburgh, I read the accusations against Musinga. Where is the other historian? What is Byanafashe? Yeah, tell him to go to the University of Pittsburgh. I read in the history on Africa, the accusations on Musinga and King Kabarega. You know, Musinga was accused of incest. Do you know what incest is? You know what incest is? Incest. Do you know what incest is? See, incest, let me say, it's not good to say anyway. You know it. You know, Musinga was a gentleman. Musinga was the head of the culture and the values of the Rwandese. He could not have committed incest. But because they want to get rid of him, and he was not there to plead guilty or not guilty, he was sentenced in absentia, and he was deported. So distortion on human nature is one of the things that dehumanize people and bring their dignity down. Therefore, that politics of division, the nature of dividing and rule, and this is not only manipulating but let people live, but this got to the extent of depopulating the north from Gisenyi, the former Bugoyi, and the Buhoma, Rwankeri, Mulera, and the Byumba, and the other places. They depopulated all the Tutsis, and they took them down to Nyamata just to justify that there are tribes in Rwanda. And that resulted into exodus, the greatest exodus in Africa of that time, into Uganda, Congo, Tanzania, and Burundi, and elsewhere. And some of the Rwandese you inherit now for over 50 years in your countries in Europe and elsewhere, in Germany and elsewhere, are the offspring of that exodus, which culminated after so long, get bad, worse and worse. And you know, when you practice evil, evil engages another one, and an evil engages until it culminated to the genocide against the Tutsis, which claimed over 1 million people in 1994. So the worst of all these things, the worst actually of the human comprehension on human humiliation, is that the world watched the genocide against Tutsi take its course. And they just watched and they let it happen. So this is leading me to the reverse, therefore. The dramatically sent a team to investigate. They say, yes, it's a genocide which is happening in Rwanda, but the other point we discovered in Rwanda, it's only humans in Rwanda. There is no oil, no diamond, no gold, no minerals. There is nothing that you can extract from them. They are just humans. Therefore, chose to spend millions of money debating in New York. Now that it is a genocide, and they have no oil, they have no minerals, and we have chosen to let them consume what they are consuming, we need to find another name for it. But I see sometimes it's amazing that the human knowledge gets limited. They fail to get a name. And these are men and women of high understanding who knew a genocide was taking its course, and they don't want to involve themselves there to spend money because there is no return income from Rwanda, and therefore they have to find a name, and they fail to get a name until the Rwandese themselves stopped that genocide. So the present leadership that we have in this country, headed by President Paul Kagame, stopped the genocide. Then there were young men and women, militants, who were saying enough is enough. We cannot watch our extinction. We have to stop it. But we have to stop it scientifically. We have to stop it with an ideology. We have to stop it with a strategy. We have to have a new life. These distortions have to stop. They engaged and they stopped the genocide. So, they had to distinguish between the global responsibility on us and our own responsibility on us. So as Rwandese, since then, have made a clear distinction as far as the human dignity and the human recovery and the human healing and the creation of the human society. We are learning and we are teaching and we are engaging. We are seeking for our own transformation from within us to know our role for our dignity, our role for our development, our role for our existence, our role in a relationship with others, and their responsibility, that we have different responsibilities. And we don't claim anybody to do our responsibility. So they stopped the genocide with a heavy duty to reverse the things. Rwandese themselves had to stop the crudest genocide in history. I call it crudest because the Jewish Holocaust was done by Germans. The South African horrors was done by whites to black. But in Rwanda, it's different. The Rwandese who speak the same language inflicted the genocide on their fellow Rwandese with them culture. Different, very, very different. There are things that are unique. I've been in Israel 3 times. You remember these measures, the tools they measure the faces of the Tutsis and the Hutus when they are measuring, trying to see our facial differences. The tools they used in Germany are the same tools they used on us, by the way. But the difference is real. Then, after stopping the genocide, now this is coming to the study of establishment of human dignity. And this is Rwanda. Well, Evelyn wants to know, what can your organization learn from Rwanda? Maybe the world, if you let them. If we translate this word to them. So, after stopping the genocide, that was not enough. They have to establish justice. And it's not only the conventional justice. The study was a little deeper. We are too few to lose any more people. We have lost so many people, we don't want to lose other people. By any means, we don't want to lose any Rwandese. So they thought about establishing the restorative justice. And this restorative justice had to be homegrown solution to the problem. And the problem we had over 125 prisoners. Those of you who are working in prisons, 125,000. That's the greatest number of prisoners in any country of the world, given our size, 21 years ago. And we had the pressure, therefore, after the world abandoned us, and the Rwandese stopped the genocide, they were staggering, trying to form a government. All the money was looted, the whole infrastructure destroyed, nothing was left for them to do a government, and they arrested people doing the genocide. They have just stopped the genocide, and the world body, the human rights activists, and the government's powers, France, Belgium, these big powers of the world, the nobles of the world, came upon Rwanda and say, judge them, establish their files, or release them. Release the criminals. But Rwanda, knowing that they cannot exist, they are members of the global village, they had to find a solution, and they applied gacaca courts, which is a traditional way of settling disputes. That all these cases, gacaca courts settled thousands, actually millions of cases in a shorter time. So we were therefore able to stop the genocide and establish justice, to be able to rid impunity in a society which wants to have dignity. And that pressure didn't stop. Rwanda had to create a system of government and a governance. So Rwanda deliberately chose to go unified. All political parties were involved, were called in a meeting. We can give you the details, or Mugaga will give you the details, or Dr. Habyarimana, who is supposed to be speaking sometime, will give you the details and the figures. I'm leaving that to them. They chose to go unified. And it began by the army. Our army, in a battlefield, arrested those who were shooting at them and rehabilitated them and recruited them into their ranks and made one army. And I have studied history, by the way. I have never seen this happen in any other army. But Rwanda did it to demonstrate. Rwanda chose to go with no revenge. And it was implemented. Rwanda established the government of national unity. That a party which wins the elections does not take it all. No, they share with others. Yes, you are defeated in elections, but you have an opinion, you have an idea, you can contribute, therefore come and be part of us, that we build the government of national unity. So that we build, we nurture, we reduce the possible humiliation and stigma on anybody among us any longer. And at that time, Rwanda also chose to have a constitution. Let me tell you something. There is nothing humiliating. These young men and women who are scholars will tell you the amount of Belgian materials in our former constitution, what they called the Rwanda constitution. It was more of a Belgian constitution than a Rwandan constitution. Because those constitutions, they didn't bear our values and our cultural understanding of who we are, and therefore developing us from where we are to a better society. Any given country's constitution should be bearing the needs of the people, the vision and the groans of the people into a better position, a higher level of life. It should be a constitution of any nation, should be transformational, to be an empowering document. a visionary strategic document, protecting document, full of the security of its people. And for the first time, Rwanda had its constitution. With that, the government chose to create, to put in place our commission, which is called on day-to-day, propagate, hold conferences, create partnership, coordinate all activities and issues relating to unity and reconciliation of the Rwandan people, because we believe very strongly in order to establish a dignity, we need to be unified, we need to work together, we need to respect anyone's contribution to the well-being of the nation. And therefore, we need to protect our unity, and from the unity, we create the energy, and from the energy, we engage our development. We suffered. I don't know whether you comprehend the level of humiliation which we are still recovering from, whereby a nation does not take a decision in its parliament not until they consult Brussels, or they consult Paris, or they consult London. And it's not on the priority of London or Brussels until it gets on the agenda. People stay hands tied. They can't take a decision not until the bosses in Brussels take a decision. And we haven't recovered from it yet in some parts of Africa. Recently, the British ambassador gave some money to the Chadian government, a grant of so many millions for development. And the Chadian president consulted Paris whether he would take the money from Britain. They said no. And he needed the money for the development. So we haven't recovered yet. But I want you to understand the level of humiliation of a president, of a cabinet, of a nation, of the schools, of the people, of the future of the people. And we talk about destiny. You understand, are these people have any role into the shaping, the drawing of their destiny? Do you understand the human degradation and the human pain? And people are degraded so much that they don't even know about that pain, the level of that pain, and they eat and they drink and they dance and they sleep as though things are normal. So the Rwandese government, therefore, chose not even to keep things in Kigali in headquarters. They decentralized the decision and the planning for development into districts, and now not only districts, but into sectors today. Every Rwandan today is able to contribute to the development and the well-being of this country. It's not even Britain, it's no longer Brussels, it's no longer Paris. It's not, as far as the government of Rwanda is concerned today, it shouldn't even be Kigali. Kigali is too far from a sector. Therefore, the decision, the priorities in development should be decided, and the people in the sector should contribute to the priorities of their development. So that's the reverse completely. And therefore, there must be something to promote in our society. And the government of Rwanda is not only centralizing, but it's also promoting accountability, hard work, responsibility of the people, is having the promotion of the private sector and the promotion of gender. Today, in our parliament, we have 64% women in parliament. I don't know how many you have in Israel in parliament.
Less than 10.
Less than 10. I don't want to ask you.
You do not want to know.
And I don't want to know. Because I've been there. I've been there. I've been a frequent friend, a frequent visitor in your good country. So, maybe I shouldn't ask anybody else. But anyway, the choices that Rwanda is making, or Rwandese are making, is a deliberate choice. Because we've been there and they don't want to stay there. You remember I gave you an example of our crush. We feel that every Rwandan should have the opportunity, equal opportunity to all, in education. Job acquisition should be done on merit. Rwanda is going actually viral in ICT. Even in the remotest area of our country. We have jumped one era in your development. We don't need the landline telephones anymore. Rwanda cannot waste money on landline telephones. We don't need them. Everybody has a telephone. Even a woman in a garden there has a telephone. Something happens, they call the president's office. Something happens, they call the minister concerned. Something happens, they call somebody in charge. Something happens, they call Synergy. Rwanda has the highest communication, but it's not enough. We are not there yet. So we are really having the restoration of our economy based on the people. The decentralized economy. To revive the infrastructure. Now we have come to know, I was telling Sudanese yesterday, our roads and our economy, our infrastructure is neither Hutu or Tutsi. It's the economy of the nation. We need to build the economy, something that we are going to leave to our children and to something that the generations after us are going to inherit. And they need to inherit a healthy understanding of who they are and the dignity which they have to maintain, to establish, and provide security for, and need be fight for. So the Rwandan leadership, His Excellency Paul Kagame, and the ministers, and the cabinet, everybody, people in different levels of the country, today understand what it is to have the sense of human dignity and the sense of confidence in our own people. You know, they used to tell us we cannot do it. But it's amazing that from the crash of the genocide today, at least Rwanda, as per last year, Rwanda had managed to raise 51 income on our national budget from our own resources. And we don't have oil, we don't have whatever the world thought we didn't have when we were having the genocide. But without even those considerations, we are managing to get over 51% of our economy. People are being transformed. In 94, we had one university. Today, 3 universities. In 21 years, professor. The transformation is so rapid that men and women of my age are going to school. Because knowledge is not only for job seeking. Knowledge is for transformation. So Rwandans are going to school from one university to 63 universities in 21 years. The transformation is not that's not only enough. We are not there yet. And we avoid any complacency. We are helping, we are speaking, we are engaging our people from all over. We don't want anybody to be complacent. We haven't gone there yet. We visit your countries. We've been in Israel, recovering. They have a little more years in recovery than we have. We've been we've been in Europe. We've been in Germany. We've been elsewhere. We haven't gone anywhere yet. But at least what our people, what is actually nurturing the dignity of our people is to know that they are on the right track and they know they can make it. And that is the beginning of the recovery of our human dignity. I was sharing with our friends last evening in our group. Rwandese have come to know that our dignity collectively, our dignity collectively, and our dignity as individuals is meant to be earned. We have to earn it. We have to work for it. I'm sure and I'm convinced beyond reasonable doubt I can be hanged for this conviction. Nobody can give me dignity. Nobody will give dignity to Rwanda. And those of you who are young Rwandese here need to know this truth, that dignity cannot be donated to us, to you, to your nation, to your children. We have to work for our dignity. And the dignity cannot be donated. Cannot be bought with money. You cannot have any market in the world where you can go and purchase dignity. Therefore, we have to work for our dignity. That's why we are engaging a new program in our efforts into the unity and reconciliation responsibilities. A program we call Ndi Umunyarwanda. We are teaching our young men and women, we are teaching our old men, our men and women in our country to understand a patriotic concept and reality and the truth and the living requirement that we are Rwandans. Rwandans who are responsible for their nation, the Rwandans who are responsible for each other, the Rwandans who are responsible for our destiny. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. With your love, with your good name, and with your good intent to come to Rwanda. And please come again. Thank you.